Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Scholastica Sylvan Kimaryo, and it's my pleasure to be with you today to take you on my personal journey, a purpose-driven journey with ambition. I am a girl child who was born in the village of Maua in Kibosho, Kilimanjaro, in Tanzania. And from the very beginning, I could see that I actually had a desire for learning. I was driven to go to the highest levels possible of my education. But I could also see that I had to address patriarchy in my own family, driven to address patriarchy in the family of my in-laws, driven to address patriarchy in the workplace, and driven to address patriarchy even from a professional level. Now, I started working in the early 70s. And in that time, I attended a conference whereby I met a very interesting woman. She was one in the big conference. It was actually in 1975, the World Conference on the Rights of Women. And many of us young women were going about, talking about, we want to be equal to men. We want to equal same rights with men. We would like the rights, access to education. We want access to jobs. We were being really very enthusiastic about it. And then this actually quite demure lady stood up and said to us, "My younger sisters, I have heard what you have said. I appreciate your enthusiasm. But truly, do you have no ambition? Which men do we want to be equal with? Which men do you want to be equal to?" And that really hit a chord in my brain, in my mind, and in my heart. Why? Because being born in the village, we were 3 girls and 3 boys. My mother and us, we were the labor force. The men were hanging around. But when I looked around, I did not see that the men were any better than us, because there was shortage of water, sanitation, education. And so I said to myself, actually, I don't just want to be equal to the boys. Yes, I did not like farming. I did not like farm labor. I was very much against actually doing manual labor. So I decided I'm going to go to school to the highest level possible so I can get an office job. But then also, having been born in the village and being from peasant farming environment, I knew that when the farm, if you are planting bananas or maize and it's not thriving, you don't change the maize. You actually change the environment. You put fertilizer. So I decided, when I go to school, I don't only want to be better as myself as a girl child. I also want to make our community better, because I could see that, in the poor communities, men and women were not so much better. So I made that decision. Now, coming to patriarchy at the family level, I was the first girl in my village to go to primary grade 5. And that started a war in my village. In my own family, my father raised the roof. Why am I having to spend coffee money to educate a girl? She's just going to become a prostitute. Even if she becomes a teacher or a nurse, she's going to earn money and benefit the family of her husband. It's not a good investment for me. The women in the village also complained, "No, we don't want our girls to go to school after they have already gotten their period. They should come home, they get married, we get bride wealth, and we get grandchildren." So it only took my mother to help me to fight patriarchy at the family level. And what she did was to advise me to go and talk to the parish priest. You see, we believe in the religion. We are Roman Catholics. And when the priest called my father and his brothers and said to them, I hear you don't want this girl to go to school. I want to tell you that it's the will of God for you to make sure she goes to school. And if you refuse, I'm going to excommunicate you, which means you will not go to heaven. You know, that for me was divine intervention. So my father said, oh no, there must be a confusion. There must be a misunderstanding. We didn't say we don't want our daughter to go to school. When they got home, they said to my mother, foolish woman, why did you not stop your girl from wanting to go to school? So my mother got verbal abuse. In fact, one of my uncles did hurt her with a pencil until she was bleeding to say, you foolish woman, you did not discipline your child. And I was really very upset because I thought as a child, how can this happen to my mother who is older than me and she's not doing anything about it? So I realized that when you want something and it is not allowed to you, we have this patriarchy at the domestic level, it is important to find a way of running away from the situation. So I actually, one evening, I took my few clothes, and walked across the river and went to the mission. I ran away from home in order for me to get a chance to go to school from the age of 10. And after that, I really never spent much time at home again, because I realized that if my mother cannot protect me or herself, then my dream will not come true. So in that case, I thrived on what I can call divine intervention. Now I got to grow up. I went to university. In fact, I had decided, the lot of women is so difficult that I don't even want to get married. Why don't I even become a nun so I don't have to deal with these challenges of having to worry about pregnancy or otherwise? And then I met this handsome young engineering student in our church choir, and we actually fell in love, and we agreed to get married. But then I said to him, I am very aware that the patriarchy at home is going to prevent me from working. And he said to me, don't worry, I will support you. So we agreed that he should go and talk to his parents that they should not demand to pay bride wealth. I should talk to my parents and ask them not to demand bride wealth. And we went and did that. So when the two families met, they were very unhappy about it. My father-in-law wanted to know, if we don't pay bride price, whose clan name are the children going to actually carry? And my parents said, they will carry your name. You are the male. Your son, these are your son's children. So we left it there, and we got married and came to live in town. But actually, we came to learn later on that behind our backs, they went ahead and did the traditional thing. And we decided as long as it did not affect us, we were not going to complain. Because what we had negotiated, the reason why my father wouldn't pay for me to go to school is because he was afraid that my income would go to my in-laws. Because he agreed not to ask for bride wealth, we were assured that my husband and myself would be able to support my family and his family. So that is how we resolved that issue of patriarchy at the family level from my in-laws. And then came some interesting challenges. My mother-in-law had 8 children. All the first 5 were boys. So she worked her knuckles out, she being the only woman in the house. So when I got married, she was really looking forward to taking a break and being assisted by me as the first daughter-in-law who was married in the family. So she then put this question to us, that she wanted me to stay home and my husband to work. And we tried to explain why it was not possible. We even gave her a good plan to say, Mama, we shall put a water pipe so you don't have to go fetch water. We shall modernize the house. We shall make many improvements. And she was resolute. She said, no, I don't want a water pump. I want my daughter-in-law. I want somebody to work with me. I want the labor force. And that really caused a great deal of stress with my in-laws. Because then, of course, I couldn't go home to stay home in the village. And one day, we then go back, and my husband says to my parents, I have very good news. My wife and the children are going to go to Botswana. She has gotten an international post with the United Nations. And my father-in-law is like, what are you talking about? First of all, how and where are you going to go? No, I will be here and she will be there and we will share the income and responsibilities. And my father-in-law said, I am really glad I was born when men were real men. Because it seems that you, my son, you cannot earn enough money to keep your wife at home and look after your children. It took us time to explain that, it wasn't really because my husband didn't earn enough. It's because when he and I met, we met at university. He was studying to get a career, and so was I. And they were not really appeased. But it taught me one thing. For my father-in-law to say, I am glad I was born when men were real men, it was really painful for him. Because he had been brought up to feel that unless a man can provide for his wife and children, then that man has failed. And between my husband and I, we did not see it like that until that time. And therefore, I realized that because my husband was supportive of me, he was being looked down upon by his parents, by his friends, and by his other family members. What lesson did that teach me as a woman, as a professional? Those of us who are women, who are fighting for the rights of women, we really need to realize that, one, it is not going to be possible to actually attain the rights of women in a society which does not also recognize the equal rights of men. And equally importantly, as women, if you have a husband, a brother, a father who supports your ambition, we as women need to make it worthwhile for them. So from that time on, anytime I had to make a career move, I had to think to myself, what is in it for my husband? And then negotiate with him and explain to him. For instance, for Botswana, I have now been given an international post with the United Nations. I can go with the children. They'll get education, and they will actually also get health insurance, etc. So that, for me, was very important. Now, I get to an international platform now, working, and every time I would hear people asking, who does she think she is? Why is she doing this? The pressure to conform to institutional norms and standards. You see, for me, when they ask, who does she think she is? And I'm like, I actually am a woman, a village girl, driven to bring change to society. And God help anyone who stands in my way when I'm bringing about this change. And that is really what actually happened. So I learned to make sure that not only was I purpose-driven and ambitious, but it was important for me to stay focused because there are always these challenges which are happening. At the programmatic level, the challenges which I observed for me had made me to actually realize that, these development programs, they come, whether it is for nutrition, for women's empowerment, for health, they come as outside programs. But it is very important for you and I to actually decide to own, to take the right to own our problems. whether they are personal problems or societal problems, and to own the solutions to those problems. In order to do these things, you have to actually have an approach that supports people. So for me, as I told you from the very beginning, coming from the village, I realized that in order for my rights as a woman to be fulfilled, it is not going to be enough to just fix me, send me to education. It is important to change the environment. You know, like with crops, you don't cut the crop. You wean it, you put fertilizer, you put water, and it thrives. I have a passion-driven ambition to succeed not only for myself, but to change society. I also realize that in order to succeed, one has to be willing to go outside the box, to be able to claim the right to own development problems at your personal level or participatory level, and to the solution to those problems. And then thirdly, anytime somebody asks me, who do you think you are? I look back and say to myself, you don't know who I am. I don't think what I am. I only know that I am this village girl who is hell-bent to make life better for myself and for other women and children. And God help you if you stand in my way. So what is the take home? What I can tell you is, on the one hand, as you can see from my life journey, poverty is, if poverty is a disease, it can be cured. Secondly, with purpose, you can defeat any challenges that you find. In fact, with purpose, you learn to take every challenge as an opportunity. So when I look back at my life journey, and you ask me, so what is the take-home away? I am, a young woman. I'm not 72 like you, so what do I take away? I can tell you this. One thing I have learned, none of us comes out of life alive. So while you're here, give yourself permission to succeed. Give yourself permission to be innovative. Give yourself permission to see every problem as an opportunity. And when you do that, go forth and give it your best, and on the way, make sure to have some fun. Thank you very much for your attention.